Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
So, after there were calls for the House to censure him over this, he made his case the next day. Take a look at that.
The president indicated that he had a mandate. I said to the president, you do not have a mandate to cut Medicaid. I have constituents who need Medicaid. They will suffer and some will die if they don't get Medicaid. I heard the speaker when he said that I should cease. I did not, and I did not with intentionality.
During a fiery episode of The View, co-hosts Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg and the panel did not hold back in their criticism of Democrats who failed to stand in solidarity with Texas Congressman Al Green. Green was removed from the House chamber after protesting former President Donald Trump's joint address to Congress, during which he challenged Trump's claim of having a mandate and voiced concerns about potential Medicaid cuts. The discussion on The View quickly turned into a passionate critique of both House Republicans and hesitant Democrats. The co-hosts condemned the Republican leadership, particularly House Speaker Mike Johnson, for silencing Green, arguing that the same Republicans had a history of disorderly conduct without facing consequences. Joy Behar and her co-hosts pointed out the glaring hypocrisy in how Republicans handled Green's protest versus their own past behavior. They referenced incidents where GOP members like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert had heckled President Joe Biden during his speeches, yet faced no similar disciplinary action. Behar even sarcastically asked where all the talk of decorum was when Republicans were interrupting Democratic presidents.
They don't know how to fight and be part of an opposition party. Representative Greene gave them the example. The Democrats are not meeting the moment. It is very clear that Medicaid is on the table. It is very clear that Social Security is on the table. It is very clear that people will die. The baby boomers, the civil rights generation, they knew what they had to do. They were willing to fight and die for their rights. This generation of Congress, they are not meeting the moment. This is an existential crisis.
And also, I might point out, some of them are from the most liberal states like New York, Hawaii, California.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
Okay,
they should have all walked out with him.
And three are from district.
Anna Navarro further emphasized this point, stating that Republican lawmakers had openly disrespected previous Democratic leaders, yet suddenly wanted to enforce order when it suited them. If you didn't stand up against Donald Trump's pardon of 1,500 insurrectionists who violated the Capitol like no other time in history, then you don't have the right to clutch your pearls and be all outraged over a member of Congress standing up, she said. While the co-hosts were angry at Republicans, they also directed strong criticism at the Democrats who voted to censure Green. Sunny Hostin and Behar particularly expressed frustration at the lack of unity within the Democratic Party, arguing that they needed to act like a real opposition party rather than playing it safe. Behar even said, "They're going to a gunfight with a knife," implying that Democrats were not being aggressive enough in defending their positions. A list of the 10 Democrats who voted to censure Green was read aloud on the show, with shock expressed at how some of them came from liberal states like New York, Hawaii, and California. The panel felt these lawmakers should have stood by Green instead of aligning with Republicans. The View's panel agreed that Democrats needed a leader who would fight for their policies and push back against Republican tactics. They recalled how previous generations, including the civil rights movement and baby boomers, had shown the courage to stand up for their rights. According to the co-hosts, today's Democratic leaders are failing to meet the moment, particularly when it comes to critical issues like Medicaid and Social Security. The conversation wrapped up with frustration over the current state of Congress. Sarah Haynes pointed out that instead of working on legislation to help the American people, politicians were focused on censuring members and engaging in partisan squabbles. "We send them there to make legislation, to move the ball forward," she said, criticizing both parties for their lack of productivity.